Shankaram Shankaracharyam
Keshavam Vadarayanam
Keshavam Badarayanam
Sutrabhasya Kritau Vande
Sutrabhashya Krito Vande
Bhagavantau Punaha Punaha
Bhagavanto Punaha Punaha
Ishvaro Gururatmeti
Ishvaro Gururatmeti
Murti Bheda Vibhagini
Murti Bheda Vibhagini
Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya
Vyomovatyapta Dehaya
Dakshinamurtaye Namaha.
Dakshinamurtaye Namaha.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Tat Sat.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Sri Hari Om Tat Sat.
So yesterday, while trying to unravel the meaning which is hidden in the first verse itself, we made sense of what it means to pray to Sri Hari, because he sort of will remove the obstacles and remove that ignorance along with its consequences. Ignorance, the cause of ignorance is happiness and sadness, sukha dukkha, and this whole sansara, this prapancha, this whole delusional sansara which holds us in its grasp. He removes it. That means he reveals the ultimate truth to us. Paramanandam, and this is not very episodic happiness. It's like dependent on something. This happiness is without any conditions. It's unconditional sense of love and peace and equanimity you feel based on that wisdom, that internal understanding. And I'm worshipping that Upadeshtaram. He's Chaitanya, he's not Jada, he's not a piece of stone, because there are different causes of happiness. Different. But this particular thing is the source of all happiness, but it's Chaitanya, not Jada. Vyapakam sarvalokanam, and is pervading everywhere. It's absolutely without any restrictions in terms of location. It's not located in the sky or below earth or in the oceans or anywhere. It's everywhere. Sarvalokanam karanam. That is what sthiti laya vilaya karanam, cause of its creation and its destruction. Now there is a catch here. Anything which is the upadana karana, or the material cause of anything, is also the cause of its destruction. Please understand it, what it means. If we look at a water bubble, what is the material cause of the water bubble? Think about it. The material cause of the water bubble is water. When the water bubble bursts, it again goes where? It becomes water again. So whatever is the vilaya karana, laya karana is also the upadana karana, because when the karya or a particular artifact, when it gets destroyed, it returns to the causal form. That means all the sansara gets terminated during pralaya. Where does it go? It gets that seed form. It goes back to the causal form, which is the Brahman. Therefore, Karanam Tam Namamyaham. That much we had done. And he had mentioned that the Chaitanya is of two types, Suddha and Asuddha. And Suddha Chaitanya is Param Brahman, that which is beyond words. There's no way you can describe it or capture it in any kind of explanatory tools you can use to reach there. No. But there is Ishvara, which is Maya Upahita Chaitanya, and that is Suddha Sattva Samparna. And we, all of us, are Avidya Upahita Chaitanya. That means we are tainted by Avidya, because Raga and the Rajas and Tamas is there. So Malina Sattva. We are still there, which is the causal, in the deep sleep. We are in Malina Sattva, it's in the causal form. And then we return when we are active again during the day. Now, the second verse, we will graduate to the second verse. second verse is he trying to explain. Let's do ucharana of the second verse. First is, what is this AparokshaAnubhuti? We know about pratyaksha-anubhuti. Like, for example, you're looking at your phone or your computer screen right now, and you're using your ears, your ability to hear, your senses to make sense of whatever I'm saying, right? I'm also hearing you, and we are looking at a book. We're using our eyes to read the sentences and make sense of it, using our cognitive faculty. So this is pratyaksha. Sometimes we do a logical analysis. We can call that anumana, inferential knowledge. What is aporoksha? Why that word is being used, he will explain to us today. When something which is direct but is not different from our consciousness. Think about it. You are looking at a book, but you are being aware of your own consciousness. That Brahman is no different from our consciousness. Paroksha is what you know indirectly. You know about Antarctica, you know about Greenland and how the Eskimos live there by reading text, by reading or seeing video documentaries, some films. That is Paroksha Jnana. It's not direct understanding. You see how people live, but the experience of that living is not with us. We infer how difficult will it be for them to, hunt for food during extreme winter where everything is covered with snow. But what it exactly feels like, we cannot know. That is only through anubhava, pratyaksha. And the other one is paroksha. Here he's saying aparoksha. That means it's definitely not indirect knowledge. It's intimate knowledge. However, this intimate understanding is not similar to the way we are having intimate understanding of the taste of a cup of coffee or tea or sukha dukkha. It's direct experience, but it's not sense experience. The object of knowledge is not different from the seer, the perceiver. That's why to negate the parokshata, the indirectness, aporoksha, that a word, that particular thing, samasa, not indirect. That is what he's saying. But doesn't say pratyaksha, because the moment you say pratyaksha, it would mean that you are using your senses to know this. This is not through sense perception, nor is it indirect. It's not by reading the Upanishads and the Vedas that you can get the ultimate meaning of Brahman. You will have idea about Brahman, but then you have to experience it through vichara. When ultimately, intimately you are aware of it, that is AparokshaAnubhuti. So that we would have, this whole book is about that. So you have pratyaksha, you have anumana, inferential knowledge, you have sabdajnana, which is testimonial knowledge. You read what is written in the text, either holy text or you read physics, whatever. Some great physicist has written something, you read it. They are all sabdajnana. So aptavakya, janya jnanam. So something which has come out of the wise words, the sayings of a guy who knows the truth. He's not trying to mislead us. So if you take out these three forms of knowledge, what remains is saying, yeah, but there is something which is very direct, very intimate, and yet it's different from all this, and that is aporoksha jnana. That is what he's saying. They use also the word sakshatkara. Sakshatkara means you're directly seeing it. It's not mediated knowledge. It's direct knowledge, but not through the senses. Because this is avang manasogochara. This truth lies at a level, it's not phenomenal reality that we can see through our senses. It is not different from us. That is the whole thing. So what he says, let's do ucharanam. Have we already done the ucharanam, or we haven't done it, right? We'll do the ucharanam. AparokshaAnubhuti
AparokshaAnubhuti Vai
Rochate moksha siddhaye
Rachyate Moksha
sadbhireva prayatnina
हीनेतु प्रयत्नेन
दीक्षणीया मुहुर्मुहुः
वीक्षणीयमुर्मुः
aparoksha anubhuti vei. So each word, has a load of meaning in it. What is this aparoksha anubhuti? He's explaining that this intimate direct knowledge is verily, it is said, prochyate, because only when we have this aparoksha anubhuti, we can ever be liberated. If you know what is written in the Vedas regarding moksha, you don't get liberated. You have knowledge about moksha. You read a novel about a romantic relationship. It can give you some second-hand knowledge about what is a romantic relationship. You can read, you can see these beautiful movies by David Lean on wars. It can give you some knowledge about what is a war, how is it fought, but that's acting. The whole thing is set up. It's much different from the actual war-like situation. There are many great movie makers who have made movies on wars, but only a soldier who has fought a war knows what the war is like. So, aparaksha anubhuti vei prochyate. Why? Why am I discussing all this for you? Moksha siddhaye. In order to ensure that liberation is possible for us. And by reading, we're not going to go there. By reading, we would be setting the platform to enable us to meditate on it, then experience it directly. Sadvi eva sadvihi eva sadvireva prayatnena, with a lot of yatna. Yatna and prayatna. That means what? Very diligently, with a lot of effort and perseverance, the great sages, the saints, the sadhakas, the spiritual aspirants, dikshaniya. First thing, the adhikara is already mentioned here. The anubandha chatushtaya, very indirectly, very nicely, he's already hinting at who is the one who is going to benefit from it. Sadvihi. That person should be having Suddhanta Karana. That means he must be the Sadhana Chatushtaya Samparnanam. It's only for them. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna Purushena. Only that kind of a person can succeed. And what is this? Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhamadi, Satka Sampati, and Mumukshitva. If he has these qualifications, he has Viveka and his Vairagya. You remember what is Viveka? Nitya, Nitya, Vastu Viveka. What is Nitya and what is Anitya? How do you distinguish between them? Atma is Nitya. Rest, all Anatma is Anitya. And what is Viraga? Yahamutra, Yahamutra Phalabhoga Viragaha. Raga and Viraga. Tasya Bhava Vairagya. So it's non-attachment, complete dispassion, non-attachment towards what? Any experience of good things, prosperity, wealth, name, fame, relations, either here, iha, amutra, or after death, you'll go to heaven by doing good deeds. A lot of people practice self-denial not because they are vairagis, but because they want higher levels of happiness. They want to go to Swarga. But that fellow is not interested in any kind of pleasure, either here or beyond Vairagya, because he wants to figure out who is he. Then you have Samadhamadi. So you have Sama, this the Dhamma is Indriya Nigraha, Sama is Mano Nigraha, right? Then you have Sama, Dhamma, Shraddha, Samadhana, Titiksha, Uparati, all these six. Titiksha is Dvanda Sahanam, Uparati is withdrawal from the external world, Shraddha, having respect for the Guru and the Acharya Parampara and the Sastras, and Samadhana, equanimity of the mind, quietude. When you have all this, then you must have, as we studied in Viveka Chudamani, the Samadhamadi Satka Sampati are fine, and Viveka is also fine. But two things are defining features in this sadhana, Vairagya and Mumukhitva. If you remember, we did that it has two wings in sadhana. This whole sadhana Vedanta, Vairagya and Bodha. Understanding, ability to understand, wisdom, plus Vairagya. But if you have too much of attachment and then you study a lot, that's fine. you will be a purely good academic Vedantist. Both of these things take us forward and help us escape the clutches of this whole delusional samsara. That is what he's trying to say. So, vikshaniya. So you need to understand this. Prayatnena, sadvya prayatnena vikshaniya muhurmuhu. You should do vichara. You need to meditate on it. You need to analyze it. What is this AparokshaAnubhuti? Let's look at the commentator, the famous Vidyaranya Muni. He has made a few remarks, and we would not be reading the whole paragraph, but would touch upon a few of these because he's one of the greatest Vedantists. Idanim, so I'm not getting into all that. So, sadhana chatushtaya darshayan. So, you have to have these four qualities. Swachikirshita pratijanite. What you are looking for, swachikirsitam, whatever you are wanting, that liberation, for that you need aparoksha jnana. And he's saying vai, that word sadvihi, AparokshaAnubhuti vai. He's saying, that vai is generally used in Sanskrit for ascertaining, to add power to that expression. And that is what he's trying to say here. That vidvat anubhavam pramanayati. Sadvihi vai, sadvihi eva, only by the ones who are wise, who are open to the truth, and they have experienced truth. That for why. Therefore, only by these people, not by all. That is what he's trying to say. Tathajayam arthaha. What is it saying? Vidvat anubhava prasiddha ya tattvamasyadi mahavakya sravanaja. So you hear this word, you are that. You are not different from the Param Brahma, that's Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. You are not different from that. But I am a human being, I am limited. Yeah, that is because of this, a consequence of your ajnana. When we are restricting our mind and then the mind is overloading, we have front loaded the ahankara, mamakara, and the presence of the physical being as the only definition of who we are. We forget to remember who we really are. We are actually human beings with emotions and this and that, but we are really the pure consciousness. That is what he's trying to hint at. So when you have this, Tattvamasyadi Mahavakya Sravanaja Pratyagvirna. So Brahma Vishaya, this understanding is about that Pratyagatma. One easy way, we have all done it in Vivekishwaramani. Pratyag avinna. Pratyag parag. Pratyag is intimate, very dear to you, very close to you. Parag is what is distant. That means external. This is purely intimate. And that pratyagatma means like ghatakasa, patakasa. Space is there everywhere. Because of the contours of that frame through which you are trying to identify it, that means define it, you discover an adjective called I'm a man. Within this adjective man, you are trying to retain or define or describe the pure consciousness which is trapped in this body. But pure consciousness cannot be trapped, it's everywhere. But then I'm a human being, I'm existing. So it appears as if it is trapped here. Space in this particular two fingers appears to be trapped in these two fingers. And for our vyavahara, for phenomenal reality, we differentiate between these phenomenal objects of experience as different from each other. AparokshaAnubhuti. So what is this? Akshanam indriyanam param atitam. That anubhuti, please understand, it's aparoksha because it's neither pratyaksha nor paroksha. It is beyond sense perception. Indriyanam param atitam cha bhavati iti aparoksham. It's beyond the senses. Therefore, it is not pratyaksha. It's not simple pratyaksha. It's not simple sense perception. And then adhisthana tat prakasakatvabhyam. Adhisthana tat prakasaka. That Brahma, that Atma thing is there. That is the fountainhead of all reality that we see. and that is that it's Swam Prakasa, it's expressing itself and it's manifesting in different names and forms. That particular thing is appearing as many. One is appearing as many. So that Nitya Pratyakshatva Prakasatmattatvam Tasya Anubhutihi is written in a big sentence. AparokshaAnubhuti is essentially about being aware of our real nature, being aware of that Atma Tattva which we are, and this experience of Atma Tattva is not easily available to us. It's not easily evident in our everyday life experiences. Why so? It's not easily available to our sense experience because it's not an object of sense experience. This can only be understood or experienced through vichara, contemplation, analytical understanding of it. What the Buddhists say, analytical meditation. If we go and do vichara and remove what it is not this, not this, we remove what Atma is not. We remove whatever is not consciousness. What remains ultimately is that consciousness that we are aware of, that truth that we are aware of. And when we do this, Tata sadhana grantha api. So when we read this, that book that we are reading it, how do we reach there? We need a means. Some techniques are there which will apply to be able to access that truth, to be able to experience it. So this book is giving us that thing. Now, how does it happen? He's giving a beautiful example. You know, in the classroom, a professor enters, and these are fresh undergrad students. But there are few who had done their coursework very well, and they had almost read some parts of the undergrad books while they were preparing for their different entrance examinations. When he's writing the equations in the class, there are a few students who easily and directly make sense of what he's trying to say, where others are confused and some fall asleep. So he's saying these Vedanta thing, that particular AparokshaAnubhuti, whatever Vedanta describes here, if somebody is a Uttama Adhikari, that means there are no distractions in his mind, he is able to quickly understand what is written here. But somebody who has a lot of intellectual questions, or maybe he's not yet open to it, he finds it a little challenging. So the sentence he's writing is here. He's saying, when you have this, that you can quickly understand it. Jhatiti avalokana matrena eva uttama adhikarinam brahmatma sakshatakara karanam grantha vishesa ityartha. This book is what will quickly enable somebody to get a hint about what the Atma Tattva is, provided he has done his basic readings, he has done the meditations, he's a pure guy. His mind is no more distracted by samsara. Anena nitya aparoksha brahma tattva visayo yo darshitaha. That what this book is saying, actually you see, Brahma Jnana, again and again we have discussed in Vedanta, you will make a recipe. That recipe doesn't exist now. So you will get the raw material, you prepare that recipe. Brahma Jnana is not a recipe to be prepared. Brahma Jnana is not a destination to be reached. Brahma Jnana is not sadhya as an outcome of any work or action. What is it? He's saying it is nitya prapta. Why are we looking for it? It's prapta, enjoy it? Yes, provided you locate it. It's like you have a lot of money in your bank account, you don't remember the password. The money is yours, you are the owner of that bank account, but you are not being able to remember the password. This whole Vedantic exercise is about recovery of the password, nothing else. Or you are already wearing your spectacles and you're looking for it. You're looking for the spectacles by using the spectacles which are right there on your nose. You're not aware of it. Somebody takes you to the computer screen where you can see your face in the camera, or you can take you, he or she takes you to the mirror and says, look at yourself, you're already wearing it. Then, oh my God, it's here. So being aware of what we are, being aware of the truth which we embody, which we represent, that is the long journey between where we are right now and where we will be after Atmagyana is same, coordinate wise. The difference is that of perception and understanding. We have one understanding of it, and it's like same students of physics. Somebody only knows about Isaac Newton and Newtonian physics. He makes sense of the material world using the Newtonian physical laws. And then somebody who has access to higher physics, he's using different concepts and writing different equations. The Vedanti is the one, he is refuting all other inferior, lower level explanations of what the samsara is all about by sticking to that ultimate statements, the Mahavakyas of the Upanishads. So sadvi eva prayatnena, with a lot of things. Why we are doing all this? Because the Shastra says, prayojanam anudisya na mandopi pravartate. If there is no need, there is no prayojana. Even a dull guy, he will not show any interest. He may be stupid, but if you say you're going to get this, how do they do all marketing? How do they do all the cyber frauds? They promise you something. They create a prayojana for you. What is that? Moksha, liberation. So definitely this AparokshaAnubhuti should promise something, should give you something. And what is that? He's saying that what? Moksha siddhaye. Then you are free from, because you see, end of the day, even no one will be interested in moksha if it's not a source of ananda. Everybody wants to be happy, free from all the stress of life. So in order to reach that point of liberation, which is right here, except that we have a lot of obstructions to the right kind of self-understanding, this book is going to help us. That's all he's trying to say. And sadvihi. So who is saying? Sadhuvihi nitya nitya vastu viveka adi sadhana chatushtaya sampannihi mumukshubhi ityartha. Sadvi means what? His long definition is given. You must have viveka, vairagya, samadhamadi, satka sampati, and mumukshutva. And you are also a sadhu. You are not a crooked person. We are not crooked people. We are good students of Vedanta. We have pure consciousness, pure conscience, and we have right effort, and we have the qualifications. Then we are getting into it. He's saying, yeah, then you can succeed. Therefore, muhur muhur, that means what? It's not that for 1 week or for 3 days, 4 days we do Vedanta and we'll get liberated. He's saying, no, it's a long journey. It's a long journey from an ignorant understanding of what we are to a good understanding, an informed and self-aware, self-realized kind of an understanding of what we are in real terms. Here in phenomenal terms. So we graduate from what we look like, what we experience, what we see, to what we are. When we discard what we experience, what we see, how people describe us, how we understand, how we respond, we discard all that. What remains is that pure consciousness. And then we are aware of it. It's very easy to mention that. When we start practicing, it's so much difficult, because once you're in a long queue waiting for you to check in at an airport, how upset you are because you have a meeting. Once you deboard the plane, you have to go and attend a meeting. So you are stressful. It's very easy to mention all that. That's why I'm saying that a lot of these people, especially, they'll mention that many of these Vedantic texts are best suited for sannyasis, best suited for somebody who has had his share of samsara. He has his experience, share of sansaric anubhava. He wants to now have some pure experience of truth and real well-being. He can sacrifice other things. He has lost interest in other things. Then he can turn to it. Otherwise, it's a little challenging. Now there is a doubt. He is saying how a person can have these particular kind of thing. A student will ask this question. So who is the guy who gets this Suddha Antakarana so easily? Somebody is able to write a program and he becomes a billionaire. And all his classmates are looking for jobs where he's already visualizing a particular solution for the whole world. What enables him to be there? What enables somebody to have in large share of vairagya and mumukshitva and that aspiration, spiritually he is oriented, so he can get liberated? What about us? He's saying, what has enabled them? He's answering in the verse number 3. Let's do Charana. Swavanna samadharmena tapasa haritoshanat sadhanam cha bhavet punsham vairagyadi chatusthayam. So he's saying these are the causative factors. Swavarnashrama dharmena. So that is number 1. What is this varnashrama dharma? That is the first thing. There's 3 things, 3 requirements, inputs that are a must to have. Swavarnashrama dharma. This word we have to understand by historicizing it. Because right now varnashrama system is not in order. It's not being practiced. So by varna and ashrama, we have to say, ashrama of course is still there in some form or the other. Whether you are a married person or you're a single person or you are a vanaprasthi. By varna, we'll have to look at what kind of occupation, what kind of lifestyle you have chosen, because the varna system is kind of defunct. No one is interested in that now, except in very traditional settings limited to India. So varnashrama, I would say, looking at your vocation, what kind of functionality, your money matters, your lifestyle, whatever you're doing, dharmena tapasa. And then this varnashrama dharma in the traditional Sanatana system used to involve a lot of sacrifices, a lot of yajnas, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, as we have done. The Pancha yajnas, the Rishi yajnas, the Deva yajnas, the Pitri yajnas, then the Bhuta yajnas for the animals and birds, and the Manusha yajnas, Atiti Satkara. All these Pancha yajnas you have done, the sacrifices, and you have done Sandhya Vandanam. You are living a life of self-conscious dedication to your duties, being dutiful to parents, to children, to wife, and to husband, whatever. Through this varnashrama dharma, that means when you discharge your duties in an ethical and moral manner, you have a sense of purity which emerges in you. By varnashrama dharma, we can also phrase it like this. When you are leading a virtuous life in the context of your own work, your social and your physical location, your social station, whatever, you are living a virtuous life. And if you have, number 1. Number 2, tapasa. Tapas, we have discussed that in Bhagavad Gita. Kaika, vachanika, and manashika. The tapas that you do, you exert to further purify, discipline, self-denial, all that you have done, the tapas. And what are the tapasyas you do in a traditional sense? You do a lot of kind of bratas and upasanas and fastings. Some people give fast during the Navaratras. You maintain silence every day for a while. Right? All these tapasyas. It's not about giving charity, and this will all come in varnashrama dharma, leading a virtuous life. But tapas would mean different ways in which you are trying to discipline and restrain yourself for a higher purpose. And haritoshanat. And what is this haritoshana? Bhakti. You are pleasing the divine, connecting with it. So if you take, it's including, the first one is niskama karma yoga, varnashrama dharmena. Tapasa is the yoga that we did in 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. You have done a tapas, like pranayama and dhyana and all that. Haritoshana, the bhakti yoga that we did, very beautifully explained in chapter 12 and many other places. Ultimately, Bhagavan has summarized that in the chapter 18. You are able to invoke divine grace through your good life, good thoughts, good action, and the very conduct of your life. When you have this, sadhanam cha bhavet pungsham vairagyadi chatushtayam. So this sadhana chatushtaya, the conditionalities are fulfilled. He is able to attain these virtues, then he becomes a virtuous person. As a result of these virtues, then he attains a level of equanimity which enables him then to get into Vedanta. Sadhana chatushtaya, you see, whatever is sadhana is sadhya for the lower level aspirant. So a student is doing mathematics, is in class 9th. For a person who is in class 7th or 8th, that mathematical skill set is sadhya. However, for the 9th class student, that is sadhana to complete the coursework to get into the board examination in class 10th. So the sadhana chatushtaya is a desired state of being for a person not yet there. The person who has done sadhana chatushtaya, the desired state of being for him is self-consciousness or self-realization, which is a still higher order of thing. From there, he'll do what? He will do maybe sannyasa, vividisa sannyasa. He will go to a good teacher of Vedanta to make sense of life, not by looking at the social, economic, and all these aspects, by looking at what are the scriptural statements about meaning of life. He will do an analysis of the philosophical texts and the insightful statements in the Upanishads. And he'll graduate through this process of meditation. Starts with Shravana, then the Artha Nirupana, then a Manana. You'll remove the Asambhavana, any doubts and queries, and Nididhyasana, and you'll remove any Viparita Bhavana or any opposite or downward pulling apprehensions or thoughts, which are obstructions. Then ultimately, Sansaya Viparyaya. Sansaya is doubt, Viparyaya is faulty understanding. When he discards these two obstructions and all the papas are removed, with the grace of God, he gets self-realization. In layman's language, that is what he's saying, that 3 qualifications are required. Tapas, Haritoshana is bhakti. So yoga, bhakti, and karma yoga. With all these 3, you get sadhana chatushtaya sampannata, that you qualify, you have this. So this is what, that is beautifully, when you have the Purva Karma Kanda in the Vedika texts and the Vicharatmaka Upanishad Jnana Kanda, then you qualify to enter there. Now there will be another question, and which is not easy also to solve. He's saying, okay, nanu karyasya karana adhinatvat. Give me a second. Okay, let me remove it. So, karyasya karana adhinatvat. Whatever is a karya, if you look at it, is karanadhina. If you look at milk pudding, this pudding that we're having, one of the raw materials which is used for producing the pudding is milk. You cannot have pudding without milk. That's a karya, that product is definitely is contained in the karana. It's karanadhina. It's controlled by the presence of that causal factor. So, nanu karyasya karanadhinatvat purvakta sadhana chatusthayasya king karanamita sankyaha. So somebody might ask this, how is it a person? How is that a person gets it? Therefore, this whole third version that we mentioned, that varna, ashrama, dharma, these are the causative factors. One, you have these niskama karma yoga, then you have tapas, you have the yogic practices, haritoshana. So, overall frame of your life is kind of disciplined, straightened through a virtuous life. You do exert yourself, do a bit of sadhana to further purify the consciousness, and then you do bhakti for divine grace. And then you are there, you're ready. Sadhanam bhavet pungsham vairagyadi chatushtayam. Okay, we're there. Now, kidrisam tad vairagyam, but what is the nature of that vairagya? I'll get vairagya, okay. So what is that vairagya like? What is that detachment like? Kidrisa tad vairagyadi chatushtayam iti asankayam tat swayam eva vyachaste. The Acharya is himself explaining what is that sadhana chatushtaya. Because I told you that AparokshaAnubhuti is an introductory text. It's very simple. And the Tikakara makes it even simpler by making very incisive, very pointed reference to different words in the slokas and giving explanatory commentary, which makes it very easy for us to enter into the text. So in the verse number 4, it says, Brahmadi stavaranteshu vairagyam visayeshvanu yatheva kakavishthayam vairagyam tadhi nirmalam. You might say that this is a little exaggeration of what is detachment. Let us first make sense of what he says, word by word. Brahmadi sthavara anteshu. You remember in Bhagavad Gita, he said, A Brahma Bhuvanas Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. All these people have to come back. The gods and goddesses, we think, they are also jivas in Vedanta. So many gods and goddesses, right? But we are not talking about like all the divine mother, whether it is Kali or Lakshmi or Saraswati, they are aspect of Maya, the aspect of that Prakriti, Mula Prakriti, Bhagavan's Maya Sakti. And if you look at Purusha, or the Bhagavan ultimate consciousness, that whether it is Lord Shiva or it is Lord Vishnu, we have a philosophical concept called henotheism. So you have individual these verticals, and the heads of each vertical is presented as the ultimate being. There was a question yesterday, where to whom to worship, whom to accept as the ultimate being. Is it Hanuman or is it Ram? And where did they come from? Historically, the Veda doesn't talk about all of them. There is a few mentioned. Their Vedic gods are different from the Agami gods. What we practice today in parts of India largely are Agamic Hinduism or Agamic religion. Hinduism is a misnomer, so Agamic. That means these are as per the Puranas. The Vedic rituals, the Vedic age, except in very restricted quarters where people are making a lot of effort to retain it, whether they have been continuous, God knows. But if you talk about Agnihotra and stuff like that, one Acharya told me there are about 25 to 30 families in whole of India who are still doing daily Agnihotra, which was mandatory for the Brahmins those days and Kshatriyas. So it was mandatory, but in Vaishyas also it was mandatory. But no one does it. It's only 20, 30 families who have made it a mark of their family identity that they are Vedic Brahmins, so they are doing it. Some Agnihotris and few in South India, largely. Almost no one in North India. And because if you're keen to observe these rituals, the problem is that you get entangled. There's no freedom. You need a cow, you need the cow's milk. The cow's milk you cannot bring. The wife has to bring the milk, then only it's purified. The ghee is there. Wife looks at it, then the ghee gets purified. So there are so many rules and regulations. And therefore, it's very important. You can't eat outside. You have to eat at home and only from your wife's hands. I mean, definitely, if you look at it, it was a virtuous life they were leading. It was not like a man-woman relationship the way we see it in movies or documentaries or novels and stuff like that. It was a hard life of virtuous, all the time you're trying to discharge your spiritual duties from morning to night. There was no material pleasure in that life. It was actually self-torture in a certain way because they were living for a high purpose. So he's saying Brahmadi sthavaranteshu, starting with Brahmaji Hiranyagarbha, or you can say Brahmaji, the Sutratma who creates. Bhagavan, Param Brahma becomes Ishwara, and then he creates this Hiranyagarbha. And then he starts creating. The Tanmatra created, Hiranyagarbha comes in, he creates this Sthula Sansara. So starting with the Brahma, Adi, starting with him, Sthavaranteshu. Stavara Jangama, Chara Achara, what moves and what doesn't move. So Stavara, whatever is inanimate, Jada Varga, from there to Hiranyagarbha, all these people, Vairagyam Visheshu Anu, all the objects of knowledge or experience, you have detachment. That means you have lost interest. Is a piece of gold? It's a good natural setting. It's a house, a car, a relationship, anything spiritual, semi spiritual, aesthetic. Happiness is not necessarily sense pleasure. In psychology, we have different hierarchy of needs, hierarchy of, the Kierkegaard, for example, talks about you have sense pleasure, then you have a person who turns aesthetic, then he has interest in beauty, and then he becomes moral, and ultimately becomes spiritual and psychic. So he's talking about different levels of experience. In each level, there is certain perception of what is good, what is pleasant, what is comfortable. What is very comfortable for a 3-year-old is not very comfortable for a 60-year-old. The 3-year-old is jumping around day and night. He doesn't get tired. The 60-year-old walks half a kilometer and comes back, is tired. I mean, I'm not talking about all. I'm just giving an example. And what a young person is interested in, his parents are not interested in that. They share everything else except they are at different stages of life. So Brahmadi sthavaranteshu vairagyam visayeshu anu. So this fellow has laws of interest in all these things. In what way? There is a simile he's giving, and that is a little exaggeration, you might say. He's saying, Yatha eva kaka vistayam. Who would like to have any interest in the bird droppings? Of whom? The crow. The crow droppings are supposed to be, full of chemicals because they consume anything, right? Veg, non-veg. They consume all kinds of dirty things. They consume even human excreta. So obviously, the excreta of a crow is used to show the disgust, the ultimate level of disgust that you experience. If a person is able to feel that towards the sansara, he's absolutely not interested, then he has no chance of getting distracted. Kaka vistayam vairagyam tadhi nirmalam. That vairagya, when the mind is absolutely bouncing back from sansara without showing interest in anything, come whatever may, that vairagya. There is a story in Eastern India. I don't know if in Bengal that story is there also. There is this Tika Govinda Chandra. There is a character. This play plays out in rural South Bengal, North Orissa, coastal Orissa. So there is the story that this guy is going to die, somebody mentions, and then the mother, to give him vairagya, gets him married to some 100 girls before he was 16, and then he will die at 20 or 21, whatever. So the mother then, this whole vairagya is engineered in his life by his mother, and he's sent to a monk after some time. So he will not get distracted because he was married to many beautiful women. And then he goes to that guru, and then he practices, and then he comes back, and he's absolutely not interested in anything, because the mother says, "Oh son, listen to the guru, because your life is limited. You have just a few years. If you don't listen to the truth, you're going to perish. If you want to attain immortality, the only way to reach that is through the words of wisdom." So he practices ultimate thing, and ultimately he stops eating. I mean, there is some, the water gourd, and he's using that as a plate, and every day he rubs it to reduce the size. So finally he has no food. And this is a mythical story. But this whole story is like a metaphor that is reducing his desires day by day. He's reducing the food intake and everything. Is essentially the intake of different impressions. All that we experience from morning to night, slowly and slowly. I mean, you just remember our childhood. It was, if you compare, without any sadhana, our lives were so spiritual, isn't it? So on a Sunday, what you do? Okay, what do you do? How you kill your day? Let's do some painting. How peaceful it was. So you're doing some watercolors, or you're doing some sketching, or you go to the riverside, or you go on a walk. Maybe you play a cricket match or a football match, but it was very innocent. And now, all the time you're lazy and you have something to watch on the laptop or the phone. How complex the world has become. So, that particular thing, when any intake, any new creation of impressions is absolutely denied and kind of washed, it's flushed away from the system. First, you flush them away, and then you stop entry of any new impressions, any new experiences. All these things will happen, but the Gyani will say, Guna guna suvartante iti matva na sajjate. He doesn't get attached to anything. He can pass through a large crowd of people, might say hello, hi to a lot of things, like one of these political leaders. He comes and shakes hands with a lot of people and everything. He doesn't care for any of these. And he goes home and he sleeps, he watches. He absolutely peacefully has his dinner. So many people he talked to, he's not bothered. If you look at it, he's practicing some way, some kind of spiritual detachment, and otherwise he'll go mad. He'll not be able to do anything meaningful or meaningless. He cannot do anything. Like, for example, you are in your position in your factory or company, then you're going home, you're spending a few, family moments with your children, with your wife, whatever. That is how the sadhaka, the spiritual aspirant, will need to translate these skills that he has in his everyday life for perfecting his spiritual attitude and his spiritual sadhana. And ultimately, he gets that strong vairagya, and he's saying that vairagya, that detachment is perfect, where you treat from top to down, from Brahma to a piece, a blade of grass, or a small piece of pebble, to a piece of diamond, or the all the wealth and name and fame, everything is meaningless. So you are absolutely not anyways influenced by what enters you. The garbage goes in, gets digested, flushed away, you are not touched by it. Why so? Because you are not a container with the base, you are a witness. Things will enter you and go out. You are not holding anything with you. That is how you retain your pure consciousness. So, as they say in Buddhism and New Age spiritual books, they would say you're perfecting attention without thoughts. We learn to perfect attention without thoughts. It's like a customer service executive, a good customer service executive. It's a very hard job. But if you do a bit of Vedantic practice, I hope it will become much easier, because you are smiling and you are trying to help everyone, but you know that these people are asking all kinds of stupid questions. Very few of them need. Some people are trying to just ask questions, waste your time, but you cater to them, all of them, as per your training, how to handle them. The job is over. Sometimes you might get agitated, but otherwise, you go home. 6 hours of sitting in the call center or whatever, you do your job, go home. And then if you are in a corporate, if you are in the grievance redress department, imagine your life. Morning to night, you are receiving grievances. So he's saying, Kaka Vishtayam Vairagyam Tadhi Niramalam. That is the verse number 4. Let's look at the verse number 5. After this, what is this Viveka in Vairagya? He's explaining in the verse number 5. These are the introductory verses. Till 12 or 13th verse, we'll deal with the introductory concepts. Nityamatma swarupam hi drishyam tadviparitagam evam yo nishchayah satya samyag viveko vastunaha savai nityam atmaswarupam atmaswarupam hi nityam nitya nitya vastu viveka. What is that viveka? He's explaining. We have done it in Atma Bodha. We have also looked at it in Tattva Bodha in prose form, very straightforward. And what is he saying here? Nityam Atma Swarupam Hi. Atma Swarupam Hi Nityam. You know, Atma Rupam will be of different kinds. The Atma, attains this Rupa of being a man, a woman, a rich person, a poor person. These are all appearing as vikaras, which it is not. The Swarupa is not, like, for example, a person dresses up to act in different films. Same actor becomes a villain, becomes a maybe a joker, entertainer, becomes a character, becomes the main character or the lead. They call it hero in Bollywood. He may be a professional, a farmer, a soldier, does different kinds of roles. Is none of these. Swarupataha, he is what he is. Similarly, this pure consciousness appears as XYZ, but not any of these. That Swarupam, he Nityam, which doesn't undergo any changes. What undergoes changes? Our mind, our thoughts, our bodies. And then he's saying, what is Anitya? Drishyam tad viparitagam. Drishyam, Drik and Drishya, Drashta, that Drik Chaitanya, Drishya, whatever is Drishya, Sansara, Mithya, Drishya, Tvat. What is the example? Swapnavat. We see dreams, no? And the dreams are not real. Sometimes we experience a lot of things, they are not real. Sometimes you are very busy, you are on a lot of stress because there is a big presentation coming, or you have to finalize a report or any product. So you are, tuck, 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 tuck at the computer, you are working, and your boss made a couple of calls. I don't know whether you have felt it. I have felt it. And then you know what? You're just busy and you hear there's a phone call and you think your boss is calling you again. And you're really pissed off. Actually, he hasn't called you. You hear it. You hear it because you're so much anxious about it. Your daughter hasn't come home. You're waiting for her. It's already 8:30. I'm talking about India, okay? In America, of course, they have more freedom. Or 8:30, and if it's a big city, there's different. Of course, now there's a lot of freedom in India. But if 8:30 or 9, and the parents, the mother or the dad, they're very concerned, where is she? Earlier, there were no cell phones, nothing. Though after dark, after 6:30, 7 or 8, if the daughter hasn't come, they were completely disturbed. Any small girl or boy, they haven't come, they're disturbed. Where is the boy? Where is the girl? They call up people. Has she left your house? Where is she? They're concerned. Now, many times, they experience in realities which don't exist. So he's saying, Drishyam tad viparitam. That particular reality that you're seeing, much of it is not real. You just, this Drishya Varga, you see that and it appears as if it exists, but it doesn't exist. So you know what is Nitya and what is Anitya. Anitya is Drishya Varga. Other than your pure consciousness, everything is Anitya. Only you are Anitya, and you doesn't mean you with the body and the mind, you as pure consciousness. That alone is Nitya, Swarupam, that he's saying, Atma Swarupam. Evam yo nishayaha samyak viveko vastunaha savi. And that Nitya vastu vivekaha, what is that viveka? Samyak prakarena, comprehensive understanding. After a lot of vichara, what is Atma and what is not Atma. When you have attained it, that shall be called Viveka. And with that, we'll stop here, the fifth verse. Any questions? We can take one or two questions. And of course, next class onwards, I'll try to finish a little early so that I can keep a little time for any interactions. Any questions, one or two, we can take, and then we'll close for the day. Okay, so
one quick question. So you have all these types of jnana, you said, right? Pratyaksha, Paroksha, and Aparoksha. So it seems like in Pratyaksha you can be deluded by your senses. Then Aparoksha also, you can do experiments, but you can draw wrong conclusions, or you can read and misunderstand the text. So for both of these, it looks like there is room for error.
Yes.
Is there any room for error in AparokshaAnubhuti?
Yes. We have discussed that. So the three chances or pratibandhakas, or chance of error, is in what way they call it. You have sansaya, viparjaya, sansaya, asambhavana, viparita bhavana. Sansaya is having doubt. Oh, really? What I see is not real, and what I don't see, that's real. What is this nonsense? Whatever is physically verifiable, that's not real. What is absolute not verifiable, that is real. That is asambhavana. How can Brahma be real, which cannot be verified? Which science book? Let's pick up. Let's argue. So they would say this. That's asambhavana. How is it possible? Having a doubt. Is it true? Okay, but what about Buddhism? They don't talk about Atman. What about Jainism? They don't talk about God. So which one to follow? Which guru to follow? Which book to read? That is doubt. How is it possible is asambhavana. Only this is true. The materialist, the atheist. Only this is true. That is viparita bhavana. So the margins of error are there because there's so many books and there's so many advices. So a person might get confused. That is why they say that, okay, you have to all the time refer to the spiritual texts, the Upanishads. They are the marker. They are the referent. So if you're looking for signages, the pole star in all this is actually what is written in the Upanishads. Because all others might be trying to cheat us, but Upanishads, it was not written. This is wisdom given to us generation to generation. So that is considered to be the ultimate thing. The pole star here is actually the insights in the Upanishads. But
No,
error.
I'm sorry, no, finish your thought, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
No, so I was thinking that as long as you're still reading the Upanishads and all, that is still Aparoksha, right? That's why you have
Paroksha.
Bhavana.
Yeah, I tell you, this is Paroksha.
Aparoksha, yeah.
Paroksha, but Tattva Jnana. So we would discuss that as you're going forward. So let's imagine, you remember when we were doing mathematics in school and we are trying to find the answer. And so the teacher says, have you done it? No, yes, I have reached the answer. Then he says, yeah, it's 4x plus y. And he walks off. You are doing the elaboration, but it's not coming 4x plus y. It's coming 5x plus y, or it's 4x plus 2y. You know you are wrong. Then you are trying to find out why am I not. So what is the problem in my derivation? Where is the error in my derivation? But you at least have been told by the acharya or the professor or your class teacher or the mathematics teacher, it's 4x plus y. That much has been told to us. The answer is 4x plus y. Then you verify how to do it. Now you do it. Now, Paroksha Jnana, it gives us Tattva Darshana. Then we try to do the derivation and do the prakriya. Then we reach there. Then we perfectly know how to reach there. So through reading Upanishads, we are knowing 4x plus y. And then we perfect our mathematical skills and we do the derivations. That means we remove asambhavana, sangsaya, asambhavana, and viparita bhavana. And finally, we manage to have direct access. But these are all words, as I have told you, because the Brahmajnana thing is beyond all discussions. We are doing it because there is no other alternative. But finally, yeah, there is some margin of error, but it's not the way you confuse a cat as a tiger cub. Confusing the cat as a tiger cub is in phenomenal reality. In Brahman, sometimes you might confuse conceptually because that kind of bhranti doesn't happen. But you have these, errors. These errors are there.
Yeah, so what I was thinking, again, maybe this is just, trying to push a point to its limit, but all of these then are also technically paroksha, and then once the knower and the known merge, that is the only time you have a paroksha gyan. Is that right? Before that, everything else is subject to.
Absolutely. You are dot on. You're right there. That's it. Yeah. So when all the dualities, they get dissolved, and we are being able to remove all these threatening questions and doubts and apprehensions, and the very duality between object and subject that gets dissolved, it becomes Satta Swarupa, you are there. And there will be that Jivana Mukti Viveka. There is a beautiful book. It's translated by the Ramakrishna Mission. If you find that some verses will be relevant. Even we have dealt with some aspects of it in Vivek Chudamani towards the end. But even here, it will come in a, it will not be so high voltage. It will be easier to grasp. So we'll move forward towards that also. So we'll do the Santi Mantras. Yeah, so we close. We'll bring it to a close. We'll do the Santi Mantras. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om
Shanti
Shanti,
Shanti
Shanti
Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Hari Om.
Tat Sat.
Have a good day, and we'll meet again next Saturday.
Pranam.
Pranam.